We begin with changes underway to the laws we live by in this time of COVID.
Florida lawmakers are preparing bills ahead of the annual session that begins in just about 2 weeks. Their focus, mitigating effects of the pandemic on Florida residents and businesses, also passing some tough conservative laws, including one that would restrict demonstrations. There is just no end to the mischief that lawmakers can do once they're up in Tallahassee. Occasionally, they also pass laws that help Floridians live better lives.
Let's talk all about that. Live with us today, State Rep Daniel Perez, Republican from Northwest Miami-Dade, in line to become House Speaker in 2024, and State Senator Gary Farmer, Democrat from Eastern Broward County and the State Senate Minority Leader. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, gentlemen, good morning. Glad you are with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning to you both.
Yeah, Representative Perez, let me begin with the bill that we mentioned, House Bill 1. It is called the Combating Public Disorder Law. It is strongly supported by you, by Governor DeSantis. As we all know, the First Amendment to the Constitution guarantees the right of the people to peaceably assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances. This bill would put some strict limits on that ability to demonstrate.
Michael, I think that that's a good bill to start off with. I can tell we're shooting for the stars out of the gate with this conversation. But look, I respectfully am going to disagree with you. And I thought the description of the bill, as far as it potentially limiting freedom of speech or demonstrations, is inaccurate. I would tell you that the purpose of this bill and what this bill will do, if it were to pass in this same posture, is those that incite violence through their protests will be held accountable in a variety of ways, as opposed to today, where I'll just give you a couple examples. At some of these riots, those that are being protested peacefully are.
Representative Perez, I'm sorry, let me jump in here and simply say, yes, other parts of the country after the murder of George Floyd had some violent protests, aside from a smattering of violence in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. The demonstrations in Florida by Black Lives Matter and others were really fairly peaceful. So why is this draconian law needed?
I'm sure there were many peaceful protests. I saw many of them myself. But let's also not forget there was violence. I mean, Michael, if you didn't see any violence, and I'm sure I can send you some clips. I mean, in Bayside, they were smashing windows. On I-95, they were standing in the middle of the highway. I mean, one thing is peacefully protesting, which I saw in the city of Coral Gables, by all races, by all backgrounds, the way it should be, discussing all issues. And another thing is smashing a brick through the window of a store, a small business that probably can't recuperate, especially in times like COVID. That's what we're trying to stop. Freedom of speech was one of the foundation principles of this country. We're not taking that away. If you're peacefully protesting, you're going to be perfectly fine. This bill will not affect you. If you want to create violence, then yes, this bill will affect you.
To your point, Daniel Perez, the bill HB1, it's actually called Combating Public Disorder. Gary Farmer, bring you into the conversation. Crimes committed like that, there are laws already on the books to address violence and assault and looting. What do you think of this bill? How would this change things?
Thank you, and good morning, Michael and Glenna, and to my good friend Danny Perez. And I say that sincerely. Sometimes we say good friend, and it may not be so sincere. Danny is a good person, good moderate Republican, but I do disagree with his assessment on this bill. In fact, this bill is a solution in search of a problem. As you alluded to, Glenna, we have numerous laws already on the books: assault, battery, trespass, harassment, even unlawful assembly laws. We also have laws that prohibit insurrection or sedition. And I believe our president violated those laws, and I've called on the Attorney General to open an investigation of him. But this bill goes way too far and would have a potentially devastating, chilling effect on our right to not only free speech, but to peaceably assemble. Our founding fathers specifically put in the Constitution the right to peaceful assembly.
But why? Let me just stop you a second. Why? Why would it stop peaceful assembly? Explain that.
Well, first of all, it takes away your right to, it makes it unlawful to stand or assemble in a public street, regardless of whether you have a permit or not. And our Florida Supreme Court has already held long ago in a case called Spears v. State that the mere existence of statutes purporting to criminalize protected expression do in fact operate as a deterrent to the exercise of the rights to free expression. So again, Glenn, we already have these criminal statutes that would allow for prosecution of anybody who commits violence. I'll also point out that ACLU and others have done studies that show that by almost a 2-to-1 margin, liberal progressive groups are more likely to be prosecuted or to have violence committed against them during an assembly than white supremacist or other conservative groups. And this bill would only enhance that ability. The bill, in fact, restricts the ability of mayors or city or county commissions from telling police to stand down or don't use rubber bullets or things of that nature. It would make those local leaders liable should anything occur. So this bill goes way, way too far. We have existing laws on the books that protect our society when there is violence. And most of the violence is being incited by the conservative movement, the Proud Boys. In Tallahassee, we had a peaceful Black Lives March back in May, I believe it was. And a gentleman from Georgia in a red pickup truck charged his truck through the crowd. The police, rather than going to quickly arrest him, put up a wall around to protect him. So we've already seen a disparate effect by our laws against the right to peaceably assemble.
Senator, we understand there's been bad behavior on the left side of the spectrum, on the right side. Let's move on to yet another controversial bill. And Representative Perez, don't mean to sort of put you on the defensive, but let me ask you about the bill that would essentially grant legal immunity to nursing homes, ALFs, long-term care facilities, from lawsuits alleging negligence connected to the COVID pandemic. I mean, why should these nursing homes get a pass if they have in fact been negligent in the care of one of their patients?
Yeah, Michael, and it's okay putting me in the defensive. I fully expected that, but that's why I'm here, because I enjoy it. I do need to rebut something that Senator Farmer said, and yes, we are good friends, but I do need to put some facts out there. There is no personal liability for any elected official on a municipal level if they were not or were to give a permit that didn't have law enforcement present because of the permit process. That is a fallacy. The truth is, the liability goes to the municipality as a whole. It goes to the commission as a whole. No elected official is going to be personally liable. And going back to the peaceful protest in public places without permitting, if they have the permits, and they're peacefully protesting, this bill doesn't apply to them. Because we all of a sudden went to the rhetoric of the white supremacy and Black Lives Matter and the red pickup truck in Georgia, the talking points that the media just loves to chomp at the bits at. Let's talk about facts for a second, and then I'm going to move on to answer your question real quick, Mike. I'm sorry I had to do this, but if you're peacefully protesting and you have the permit to peacefully protest in that area, this bill won't apply to you. Life will move on. And I'll move on to the next answer as well.
Yeah, Representative Perez, since we are back on the combating, anti-mob bill, as it is generally known, let me ask you, there is a provision in this bill that says that anybody who got caught up in a demonstration on a roadway, as people in fact did on I-95 and 395 last May in downtown Miami, that if they felt threatened, they could drive through the crowd, maybe hurt or even kill somebody, and they could not be prosecuted for a crime. Is that justified?
It's not about driving through a crowd if you feel threatened. First of all, no one should be on I-95. Let's start with that. Really, the conversation should end there, because you shouldn't be walking down I-95. The same way you shouldn't be jaywalking on Bird Road and 87th Avenue. And in today's laws, if I'm driving the way I'm supposed to on the right of way on traffic and someone were to jump in front of my car on Bird Road, yeah, I would be immune from criminal charges while I was driving my car properly. The same would apply to a person that's driving down I-95 and a protester, Republican, Democrat, Independent, I don't care what they are, jumps on the middle of road of I-95 and gets hit. Of course, the driver that was doing their job and driving the way they should through the right way of traffic shouldn't be liable. I mean, that's just common sense. We don't even. That's not even a discussion point.
Michael, I couldn't disagree more. You don't have the right to run somebody over because you're being inconvenienced. This bill doesn't just apply to I-95. It applies to any roadway. And again, it takes away your ability to do those types of assemblies or marches with or without a permit. We have laws right now where we get permits. I saw these peaceful marches in Tallahassee, down Monroe Street, main thoroughfare of the city. People are peacefully brought. See, the point of peaceful assembly and protest is to draw attention to an issue that is being ignored.
Well, that's an
And so
age-old
when you have a
practice
permit to do that,
in America.
you should be allowed.
We have to take a quick break. I'm listening to this and listening to you, and I'm thinking we're going to do a whole program on just this one bill because there is a lot to talk about. We promised our viewers kind of a preview of more, so we're going to get into some of the other bills on tap when we come right back. Stay with us. We are back with Representative Daniel Perez from Miami-Dade, State Senator Gary Farmer from Broward, talking about, no time to talk about all the bills on tap, but we were talking about one of the governor's priority bills in the last segment. Daniel Perez, the Republicans in the House have sort of a business focus this session. And I know we started to talk a little bit about the bills to protect businesses, government entities from nursing homes, from liability where it comes to COVID-related issues. And there are a number of bills that are specifically in place to sort of protect people and business from the damages of COVID. I know that's one of your priorities. Talk a little bit, if you would, how difficult those things are going to be in debate.
Yeah, Glenn, I'm going to be honest. I think the most important bill that we're going to see this upcoming session is going to be the COVID liability bill on the business side, which in the House is HB 7. And then separate from that, we have a healthcare liability one when it comes to COVID as a different bill. I'll talk about the business one real quick just to get it out there. The way it works today is if you were to want to file a lawsuit against a business, you would have to prove that they were grossly negligent by a standard of clear and convincing. That would be the burden of proof. That they didn't abide by the CDC guidelines or the Department of Health guidelines, and someone contracted COVID because of their gross negligence. Assuming that the plaintiff were to be able to accomplish all of those prongs, then the business would be liable under this bill.
Yeah, Gary Farmer, you are a trial lawyer. You are in court, putting on your trial lawyer hat, looking at a bill that would limit the ability of a son, a daughter, to sue a ALF where they believe there had been gross or even just some kind of negligence. What's your opinion of that?
It's horrific. It's abhorrent. Listen. The business liability bill that Rep. Perez mentioned, the fact that Republicans are calling that their most important bill is just, shocking to me. We've got so many things ailing this state to say that that's the most important bill. Last time I looked, there were a grand total of 5 lawsuits filed against businesses where someone claimed to contract COVID at their business. So it's a solution in search of a problem. And the legal standard is much harder. Just not following CDC guidelines does not constitute gross negligence. But the nursing home bill is particularly outrageous. These residents are captive. They don't go anywhere. They only live in the nursing home. The nursing home is paid money to do one thing and one thing only: protect the residents. So if the nursing home is negligent in protecting the residents and doing its sole duty as a nursing home, it should be held liable. And they've already got the worst liability laws in the country for nursing homes in this state: non-existent insurance, wasting policies, low liability requirements. These are our grandparents, people who have raised us, who have taken care of us, who've done so much for this state, and to be put in a vulnerable position because a nursing home doesn't take ordinary precautions against COVID. And we've seen stories about letting people come to work that are positive and all kinds of things. Do your job, protect the residents, do precautions, you won't be found negligent.
State Senator, I want to stay with you just because this is your bill I'd like to talk about for a moment. Today marks 3 years to the day in our community, a heartbreaking anniversary, the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High. And the legislature session right after that, there were some unprecedented gun bills passed. Again, you have a bill this year that aims at gun safety. Your bill in particular, among many, aims to ban some high-power weapons. Again, there's going to be a debate over gun safety, and there are a lot of bills filed right now that expand gun rights. Please weigh in, if you would, on why you think that these gun bills have a chance where they haven't in the last 3 years.
Yeah, Glenna, and first and foremost, my heart goes out to the families and friends of the victims of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas shooting. Valentine's Day for them will never be the same. The memories it conjures up. I toured the school within days and saw the Valentine's cards and flowers strewn across the hallways from the kids who were trying to escape the carnage being inflicted on them. And that carnage was inflicted because Nicholas Cruz was able to use a high-capacity assault weapon and high-capacity magazines, 30, 40 bullets in a cartridge. There is no valid use for these types of weapons of war. The manufacturers who made them specifically define their use for one thing and one thing only: to kill large numbers of human beings in as short a time as possible. Nicholas Cruz was able to fire off hundreds of rounds because he had these weapons. He had access to these weapons. There's no sporting purpose to these weapons. It's not a sport to hunt a deer with one of these things, and you don't need them to protect your home from invasion.
Danny Perez, can you weigh in on from your perspective?
Sure, of course I can, and I'm glad Senator Farmer said that. I obviously share those condolences, and that was an unnecessary event that all of us wish wouldn't have happened, and the details behind that obviously were horrific. And look, I can tell you in the House, right after Parkland, I was serving. It was my first year, and we passed House Bill 7026. I can tell you this, Glenn, it's the only bill that I remember the number from over my last 4 years in the House because of how important it was. And in the bill that we passed the Florida House, a person like Nicholas Cruz would not have been able to have purchased a weapon that he did, or bought it on the black market, or even possessed it after the bill that we passed. So I completely agree with Senator Farmer, and we did do something about that in the Florida House and the Senate, and we did pass that. And I remember the satisfaction that we all had in making sure that at least we made some progress in making sure that Nicholas Cruz couldn't do what he did just 3 years ago to those 17 families. I mean, what a sad day, and my heart goes out to all of them. It always will.
Yeah, so do ours.
But Glenn, all that bill did was say that somebody who's under 21 can't purchase those weapons. And by the way, we tried to add the words sale or transfer. We tried to add the words or transfer, and that amendment was blocked. So still in Florida, an adult can buy an assault weapon and give it to a minor.
Yeah, Senator, we're going to have to jump. We're going to have to jump in. Sorry, we are out of time. Great having you. We will see you in Tallahassee in a couple of weeks. Good luck with the session.
And thank you for spreading the love on this Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Thank you both.
All right, next, what may be the most focused effort in South Florida to overcome barriers to success for Black people in South Florida? That's our topic next.